On September 7th, some breaking news was just released involving Polo G being arrested once again for firearm charges. Now we need to talk about this, so let's get straight into it. So rapper Polo G was out and about on a Monday afternoon in downtown LA. On the official arrest report, they reported that Polo G was sitting in the passenger seat of a vehicle that was pulled over by law enforcement. Although it's not clear exactly why the vehicle was pulled over, police say that after searching the vehicle, they found the firearm near Polo G's passenger seat. We were also told that a male juvenile was also arrested and he was booked on the same charges as Polo G. So this arrest comes nearly 3 months after his album release party, where he was also arrested once again, but that time it was in Miami after allegedly having an altercation with a law enforcement officer, as well as police claiming that they found 2 firearms inside of a handbag after the Cadillac that Polo G was driving in was pulled over for some very dark tinted windows. Now once again in that arrest, Polo G was also the passenger once again. And with Polo G now being arrested twice for the same charge of carrying a firearm without a license, as well as having an altercation with an officer, when his 2 trials start, it has been said that Polo G is looking at around 5+ years in prison with the chance of house arrest, thankfully. Now Polo G has definitely been no stranger to getting in trouble with law enforcement. This is gonna make Polo G get looked at differently when in court for these 2 cases, especially with one involving an altercation with an officer and also just having 2 firearms without a license. Polo G is in a very bad situation right now. And this is without even mentioning the arrest record of Polo G. The criminal history of Polo G is very concerning. Now, one thing that many people actually don't know about Polo G is that he was arrested 6 times, back to back to back, and so on. Now, Polo G stated this himself in an interview that he did with Vlad TV. He also mentioned that none of these cases were too serious to the point of him facing double-digit years in prison, but it's still very serious in the sense that if he gets arrested one more time, then he will be doing prison time due to his prior arrest record. Now within the last 3 months, Polo G, he's been arrested twice now for firearm charges and having an altercation with an officer. Another very serious charge on his record, and which is why he has to continue to sit in the passenger seat of vehicles, is that Polo G was involved in a high-speed chase with law enforcement where he was caught driving in a stolen vehicle that he ended up finding in a parking lot and hot wiring. He discussed the entire situation in an interview that he did with DJ Vlad, and in detail, Polo G, he said that he ended up breaking into a vehicle that was parked inside of a parking lot, and while using this car to just drive around, law enforcement were told that this car was stolen and to be on the lookout for it on the streets. Well, a law enforcement agent ended up finding Polo G driving down the street, flagged the vehicle, and this is what started a high-speed chase on the highway, very kind of similar to the way NBA YoungBoy's was, but YoungBoy didn't steal his vehicle. Now a high-speed chase broke out. Polo G ended up getting the car off of the highway as he started hitting traffic. Polo G then swerved off of the highway, hitting the main streets. While driving down the main streets, I should probably mention that this was all on New Year's Eve. The streets were packed with people, everybody walking on the sidewalk, celebrating the new year. Meanwhile, Polo G and his friend are going 100 miles an hour down a main road and swerving through traffic. Now, Polo G tried to make a turn at an intersection. He ended up crashing the vehicle, which caused a lot of issues for him in court, and when the car was crashed, law enforcement agents started surrounding his vehicle, telling him to exit the vehicle with his hands up. Now, very luckily for Polo G, when he did end up crashing the vehicle, there was nobody on the sidewalks or any pedestrians affected by the situation, as this would have caused some very serious trouble for Polo G. If somebody ended up getting affected by the vehicle crashing, then Polo G would never have even started creating music, as he would be probably serving a life sentence in prison. Now, going back to the most recent court case of him getting pulled over, this is why he continues to sit in the passenger seat allegedly. Looking at some online records, Polo G is actually not allowed to drive a vehicle, but instead will buy vehicles for somebody to drive him in, which is why he continues to sit in the passenger seat. And for everybody wondering on why Polo G does not have his firearm license for him being a celebrity, it's because of his priors records list. Polo G is not allowed to have a firearm on him, yet he clearly still holds one, as most rappers do, even though they're not supposed to. Many rappers like to state the obvious of they would rather get caught with it than without it. It's a very common term used by rappers, but still, Polo G uses it and carries it for his own safety. It's not every day that somebody gets pulled over from law enforcement and gets an entire vehicle search, so rappers take their chances. But due to Polo G taking his chances so often, and him now being arrested twice in the last 3 months, Polo G is going to be getting sentenced to prison for a few years, coming from some online sources of people working in the field of law. Now, a lot of people did not expect something like this coming from Polo G. Polo G is currently sitting in jail awaiting for bond, seeing if he'll even get the chance to be released on it. If given the chance to be released on bond, I can definitely see Polo G just continuing to create tons of new music, as when his trials do start, he will be getting sentenced to a prison term. It really does not help his case that when he was arrested on the night of his album release party, he had an altercation with an officer. Now, meanwhile, we don't know the specifics on that currently. What has been said online from some very reliable sources is that Polo G was having his car pulled over, and during the process, he didn't want to be searched, and he ended up having an altercation with a law enforcement agent. After getting arrested after that incident, Polo G's car was then searched, where they found a backpack containing 2 firearms on the inside. Now, it's obviously not clear on whose they were, but I would imagine that whoever he was with that night will take the charge for him. Anyways, this has been District Trending, and I'm ending the video here. I'm out. Peace.